This is a video that's going to show you how to set up the radial design and get started on this project. You can see here this is a completed project. Everything is symmetrical in this design. That's one of the key components of this project here, that we have 8 equal sections, and whatever is drawn in one section, the exact same thing is drawn in the other 7, the same size and the same distance from the middle. You have a 12 by 12 piece of paper that you're starting with. What you'll need is a ruler that is larger than 12 inches, and you also have to be able to see the 6-inch mark. You're going to take this 12 by 12 piece of paper and find the center. The way to do this is start up on the top, put the 0 of your ruler on the edge of the paper, make sure it's the mark that represents 0, make a small mark at the 6-inch mark, do the exact same thing on the bottom, put the 0 on the edge of the paper, make a small mark at your 6-inch mark, and then very, very lightly connect the two. When you connect the two, you're going to go through the entire paper, not just from your 2 marks. You're going to go from the top of the paper down to the bottom. That's halfway across the paper. I tend to turn it, so I'm doing the exact same thing again on the top and the bottom, making a mark at the 6-inch mark. I make my mark at the 6-inch mark, and I connect the two lightly from the top of the paper to the bottom of the paper. Now you can see I pressed a little harder. That's so you are able to see this on the camera and on the picture. You need to do these lightly. These are guidelines that you will use. They are not necessarily a part of your design. We want 8 equal sections for this radial design. Right now we have 4. We're going to divide these in half, and your first instinct is to go from corner to corner, but don't do that. If I set my ruler up corner to corner, chances are it is not going to cut through that center point. It is slightly off. I need it to go through that center point. So I want to get as close as I can to the corners, but make sure the line cuts right through the middle. And draw it in. When I go the other direction, if I start corner to corner, make sure it's going through the middle. If it's not, adjust the ruler a little bit until it does, and then draw it in. So here, I have my 8 equal sections. On the design, we've limited it to an octagon shape, and we need to measure out and get that first octagon drawn. From the middle, on each line, I'm going to measure out 6 inches, and I'm going to put a mark on the end of the line. Now the vertical and the horizontal line, 6 inches is the edge of the paper. So I don't necessarily need to put a mark there, but I can. On the diagonals though, when I put the 0 right at the center, I can go out 6 inches, here's the 6-inch mark, and I put a mark or a small dot on that line. I'm going to do that on all 4 diagonals. And once I have 6 inches marked on every line, and on these, it's the very edge of the paper. Again, on the vertical and horizontal, it's the very edge of the paper. Then I can make my octagon shape. I take that edge of the paper on my vertical line, and I connect it to my 6-inch mark on a diagonal line. And I keep going around from that 6-inch mark to the edge of the paper. Now, a mistake that some kids make is they go back to their original dot when they measured 6 inches. Don't do that. you want to go out to the edge of the paper for this one. So all the way around. I connect them. I'm going from the edge of the vertical or horizontal line to the diagonal 6-inch mark, from the 6-inch mark to the edge of the vertical or horizontal line, and I go all the way around. This gives me my space that I have to draw my radial design. And one more. So there's the setup. Some people will do the same thing 3 inches out on each line and very, very lightly make an octagon that is 3 inches away. If you choose to do that, you can. If you choose not to, that's fine. Some people do this because it helps them keep their design symmetrical. So if I were to do that all the way around, 3 inches away from the middle, and then lightly, I connect them all. And I would continue to go around. This helps if you're worried about your design getting lopsided. You can work on designs inside this 3-inch mark, and you know once you get to here, you're starting a new set of designs as you work on the outside. If you choose not to do this, just be very, very careful that you are keeping everything symmetrical. For the design portion of this, like I said before, you have 8 equal sections. Whatever you draw in one section, you are going to draw the same thing in the other 7, the same size, and the same distance from the middle. For this part, I'm going to zoom in with the camera so we can zoom into the middle, and it's a little easier to see. So say I start with an oval or a circle, and I put a small circle right there. I'm going to turn my paper, and I am going to try to draw that same circle or oval, the same size, and the same distance from the middle. Oops, that one's a little bigger. And I work my way around until I get back to the beginning. I went out a little far. And then when I look at it, I can make adjustments as needed. But for the most part, it's pretty good. I can draw another shape. If I pick another shape, maybe 2 triangles. If I draw 2 triangles there, I'm going to draw the same 2 triangles above that. I'm going to do the same 2 triangles and so on. This project is as easy as drawing a shape. If you can draw a shape, you can do this project. And I keep working around. Above this, I want to put 2 lines. I do the same thing as I work my way around. Now you'll notice each time I'm going to a different section, I'm turning the paper. I'm also lifting up my hand from the paper. I want to turn the paper so I am drawing that same shape or line in the same spot, and I'm not trying to twist my hand around. I'm also lifting up my hand as I turn the paper, because if I don't, the lead that builds up on the side of my hand is going to smear on my design. Keep lifting around. If I choose another shape, 2 rectangles above that, it's the same 2 rectangles, and so on. When I get out here, I want to avoid doing one big, huge shape If I could fit 6 squares in here, I would fit 6 squares, and then I would turn this and do the same 6 squares there. If I did something like this, just to try to rush to get done, that's not good enough. My requirement for the amount of designs that need to be inside the octagon is if I can put my pinky down and there is a blank space, then something needs to be added. So here, I have a huge amount of space that some design should be placed. If I do something like this and I want to get full credit, I would need to go back in and put some type of shapes in here. So if I alternate, I want to make sure in this design it's going to be symmetrical all the way around. Some things that I would avoid. I would avoid words, letters, and numbers. If I put a letter here and it is facing this direction, every single guideline that I put down becomes a line of symmetry. So it would have to be mirrored here, and it would also have to be mirrored down here for this line of symmetry. It would have to be mirrored here for this line of symmetry. It would have to be mirrored here and mirrored here. This one then has to be mirrored down here and also mirrored across the page, over the page, and sometimes it gets too confusing for kids. So I, just as a general rule, would say avoid words, letters, or numbers. Also, avoid drawing one huge square. Whatever you draw in one section, you need the exact same thing in the other 7. If I do one square here, yes, it's symmetrical, but I have the corner on this line. I do not have a corner on this line. If you accidentally draw a big square like this, you can fix it by drawing the identical square this direction, and then you end up with a star-like shape. I strongly suggest if you do something like this and you want that star shape, you measure out from the middle. Say I measured out 4 inches on each line, and then I connect those to make my 2 squares, and then inside of those, then I start filling in designs into the spaces there. This person here, they have 2 guidelines that they put. They have their original octagon around the outside, and I can see that they have another octagon drawn right here. That helps them keep everything inside symmetrical. And then they have another octagon drawn right here. They also traced it with their marker. That means that that octagon shows up. If you don't want to trace those, like your 3-inch guides that you put in, if you don't want to trace those, that's fine. That means it's just not going to be a part of your design. Kids also ask me, do I have to trace these guidelines? That's up to you. If you want the person to see these guidelines at the end, then yes, you would trace them. This person chose not to. This is their guideline right here, and you can see it is not traced on that corner. It is not traced there. She did not want anybody to see those guidelines when the product was done. The steps for doing this are to draw everything in first with pencil, then trace it with a marker. The best marker that's going to work for this is a thin Sharpie marker. If you don't have a thin Sharpie marker, then you can use a pen. A ballpoint pen would work fine. You trace all of the designs that you want to show up. Then you take a big eraser, go over the entire paper, erase all of your pencil lines, and then you start coloring. Not only do the designs need to be symmetrical, but so does the coloring. So if she chose a green color here, it's the same green in the same spot all the way around. This is the basic setup for the radial design. If you have any further questions, you can try watching the video again. You can follow along the video when you're setting it up and pause it as needed, or you can ask me if you need to.